Hello, the Pioneer viewers, as I hope you're healthy and well. Today we will again analyze the latest developments in the war between the Russian army and the Ukrainian army with a map. Today, the Kherson front line will be on our agenda again. The activity on the Kherson front line, which started in recent days, continues. There is a tactical withdrawal of the Ukrainian army. However, this seems to be a short-term situation. According to the latest reports, fierce clashes on the Zaporijya front line are also continuing. The Russian army, on the other hand, continues its steady advancement attempts on the Donetsk front line, but as we mentioned, this is an attempt to advance. It is not possible to talk about a healthy and big progress. The Russian army is suffering huge losses. It cannot advance. The Russian troops are very worn out, and the Ukrainian defense forces have repelled all these attempts. So what is the latest situation on the front line? Let's take a look at the developments to get there. As the Pioneer, we are making an intense effort to convey the Russia-Ukraine war to you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. You can also support me and my teammates by using the super thanks button below the video. Let's start if you're ready. The Pioneer reports. Let's start with the developments on the Kherson front line. We have reported on this topic many times. On the east bank of the Dnieper River, the Russian army is at a disadvantage, especially in the Oleshki region. It is very difficult for Russian troops to hold on. The delta islets in the area are also a major obstacle for the Russian troops to establish permanent defensive fortifications. Before the recent offensives, Ukrainian troops were already conducting raids on the delta islets. According to the latest reports from local sources, Ukrainian troops have recently taken control of the most of these delta islets. However, the long-range artillery of the Russian troops is carrying out an intensive attacks. Therefore, Ukrainian troops are making a tactical withdrawal from the region. However, this process will stop in the coming days because the attacks capacity of the Russian Air Force is decreasing. We have discussed this in our reports in the past days. Even if the Russian Air Force has ammunition capacity, its pilot capacity is considerably decreasing. The attacks of the Russian Air Force were also effectively in the withdrawal of the Ukrainian troops. However, as soon as these attacks stops, the Ukrainian army will start to regain control in the region. There is an intense pressure of the Ukrainian troops in the region. This pressure seems to continue for a long time. According to some sources, new supplies are among the reasons why the attacks of the Ukrainian troops are so strong. Allegedly, in some parts of the Zaporijya front line, Ukrainian troops were transferred to the Kherson. This seems to have strengthened the Ukrainian army in the region. Now we continue by analyzing the latest developments on the Zaporijya front line. The fact that the Ukrainian attacks on the Zaporijya front line have decreased in intensity confirms the claims that the troops have been transferred to Kherson. When we look at the region, three areas attract our attention: Kopani, Novopokrovivka, and Verbov. According to the latest reports, Ukrainian troops carried out heavy artillery attacks in the direction of Novopokrovivka. Following these attacks, Ukrainian troops reportedly launched an offensive against Novopokrovivka. Partial progress was made in this offensive. However, it has not yet been confirmed. A similar situation occurred in the Kopani area. Ukrainian artillery units carried out an intensive shelling of the Kopani area. After this shelling, Ukrainian infantry units went on the offensive. However, there is no progress in this region. There was no change in the border line. In Verbov, Ukrainian troops are trying to get behind the Russian troops. According to the latest reports, Ukrainian artillery units have also launched an intensive attacks on the Russian positions in this area. If Ukrainian troops manage to get behind the Russian troops in this area, the situation will change considerably. If this happens, Ukrainian troops will reach the second echelon of the Russian defense line. In this case, the connection between the Russian troops and the second line of the defense of the Russian army will be broken. Breaking this link would mean that the Russian troops in the area would be caught in two fires and completely destroyed. However, the process in this area should be analyzed very carefully because the attack power of the both armies in the region is quite high. Let's talk about the artillery attacks in the region. According to the latest reports, Russian artillery targeted Ukrainian positions in Pitiakhatki, Malaya Shribaki, Novoandriivka, Orikhiv, Novodanilovka, and Malaya Tokmakcha. In turn, Ukrainian artillery units targeted positions of the Russian armed forces in the direction of Nestryanka, Kopani, Salayatka Balka, Ichenko, Novoprokopivka, Verbov, Novopokrovka, and Novofedoryovka. Let's continue by analyzing the latest developments in the Withdrawal sector of the Zaporijya front line. According to the latest reports, Russian troops continue their offensive in the direction of the Stromayursk and Ukraine. We have mentioned this many times before. The Ukrainian defense line in the region is quite strong. Russian troops cannot break through the Ukrainian defenses. On the other hand, Ukrainian troops are attacking in the Novodonetsk and Pereodny. However, there has been no developments in these attacks. The borderline is protected. According to the latest reports, Russian artillery units targeted Ukrainian positions in Yorkhain, Boholdar, and Vodoyanov. Ukrainian artillery targeted Russian positions in Zavidny Bazhania, Pereodny, Novodonetsk, and Novomairovsk. Now let's continue by analyzing the latest developments on the Donetsk front line. As you might expect, Russian troops continued their persistent but unsuccessful offensive in the direction of Marinka. In these attacks, Russian infantry units were accompanied by the Russian Air Force. However, no progress was made. The Ukrainian Defense Forces largely repelled the attacks of the Russian army. The Russian army has been trying to advance in this region for a long time, especially Avdiivka is very critical. There are even comments about Avdiivka at the second Bakhmut case. Although the Russian army has massed almost all its forces here, it cannot advance. Let's continue with the latest developments on the Bakhmut front line. Fierce struggle continue for Avdiivka and Klishchivka south of Bakhmut city center. According to the latest reports, the Russian army launched an intense attacks to seize positions around the railway in the region. However, the Ukrainian defense forces deployed in the region repelled these attacks of the Russian army. There is also activity of Ukrainian troops on the northern flanks of Bakhmut. According to reports, Ukrainian troops went on the offensive in the Berkhivka region. However, the Russian defense line could not be overcome. There is no border change in the region. The Luhansk front line has also started to mobilize again. According to reports of local sources, clashes intensified in the Sherbyanki forest area. We have seen that the Ukrainian attacks force is very active in the region. The attacks is very intense, so the Russian army has taken a defensive position. The Russian army cannot find the opportunity to attack. So what do you think? Do you think the Ukrainian army will attack again in the Kherson region? What is your opinion about the latest situation on the Zaporijya front line? What do you think about the failure of the Russian army on the Donetsk front line? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.